Good afternoon, folks. I'm back today with another review. This is a range and tabletop review of the Advantage Arms 22 long rifle conversion kits for the Glock pistols. So before I get started, I'll just roll in some range footage so you can see this thing in action, get some general impressions, and then we'll come back here for the tabletop part of the review. Okay, welcome back. So hopefully that was informative and interesting. So the first thing that we're going to do is we'll safety check the weapon, make sure that it is in fact clear and safe to handle. So you can see we have an empty chamber, nothing in there at all. Pull the trigger, just like every Glock out there, pinch the slide back, pull down on the locking bar, and the slide will come right off of the frame. Very simple to take apart. We have the recoil spring and guide rod. We also have the barrel right here. And this is our casing, which is empty. And then last is this removable ejector. And then last we have the slide. Very simple to take down. Putting it back together is just as simple. The only thing that's really different from a normal Glock pistol is going to be this removable ejector piece, and it will slide into a carefully cut groove inside of the slide. And then we simply take our barrel, put that in there. Now there is a cutout on the side of the barrel right here, and this lines up with a cut in the ejector, so it's important that these two pieces are mated correctly, and this is the only part of the reassembly that you could really mess up. So just make sure that you have these in there together. They lock in place and they should move in unison once you've assembled it correctly. So, and then last we put in our guide rod and recoil spring, and then from there it's back on the rails and fully reassembled. Very simple to put back together. First thing we'll talk about is the price. Now, I paid $250 for the kit, and let me be clear about what the kit contains. You get the slide, everything with the slide, obviously, and then you also get one magazine. I believe this is 10 rounds. One magazine, you get a hand loader, and you also get, at least the kit that I purchased, came with this soft case. That's a pretty nice case. It has the Advantage Arms logo right here, and if we open it up, we can see that I've got some paperwork in here as well, some safety information, also ammo recommendations, and a manual on how to use the slide in the conversion kit. Then we also have pockets here for another 4 magazines. So these did not come with the kit. I actually purchased these separately, and because there are 4 pockets, I got 4 magazines. That way, with 1 magazine in the firearm, you can have a total of 5 magazines in here without anything flopping around all over the place. So that's really cool. So these were separate. For just the pistol, the kit, the bag, on eBay, I purchased it for $250, which after tax and shipping came to $265. Okay, so not the cheapest thing out there, but also not the most expensive thing out there either. Now the magazines, I got 4 additional magazines. These can be had for just under $20, give or take, depending on who you buy them from. I was looking on eBay, so at the time I purchased 4 of these, and my after tax and shipping total was $78.06. So for me, all in for the conversion kit, the bag, and all the magazines was $350 and some change. For me, having 5 magazines really makes this a lot of fun to use. Now, the next thing that we'll talk about is the reliability. This conversion kit has been I would say perfectly reliable for me, honestly. I've put probably in the ballpark of 600 to 800 rounds through this, and I can honestly say I haven't experienced any failures that I really think were the slide's fault. There may have been dud rounds because of rim fire, so cartridges that would not fire, things that may have been user induced. Maybe my hand or my thumb's resting on the slide and causing a stoppage or malfunction. So I would say this is very reliable. And we'll talk about finickiness later on. Advantage Arms is very clear about the type of ammunition that they recommend you use for this kit. And as long as you're following those recommendations, I really don't think you're going to have any issues. This has run flawlessly for me, and it's been very useful as a result. The next thing is the quality and workmanship. So the quality of this, really nicely machined, no sharp edges, no nasty marks or anything like that. It seems to be holding up very well, and as I said, I've put about 600 to 800 rounds through this, maybe more. And a lot of that is also drawing from the holster, so there is some wear starting to show on the top and a little bit on the sides, but not very much, nothing more than you would really expect. I don't really foresee any issues, so for me, I think this is a very well-made piece. Now, as far as availability goes, Advantage Arms does not sell these directly from them. You can get them through a distributor or any seller who would have them in stock. They do sell some of the accessories and spare parts from Advantage Arms direct, just not the kits anymore. I'm not entirely sure why, but just keep that in mind. So I would say availability is, it's fair. You can find this on a number of different sites. For example, I purchased mine on eBay, the kit and the magazines, and I looked today actually, and there were a number of sellers selling the conversion kit for the 19 and 23 specifically that had them in stock for about what I paid for it, so about $250. So I'd say fairly available, pretty easy to get your hands on one. And the last thing to talk about here before we get into the pros and cons would be customer service and customer support. So I can't really speak to customer support because, as I said, this has been a reliable component. I haven't had anything fail. I haven't had any weird accuracy issues or anything like that. On the customer service side of things, I called a couple weeks ago and actually talked to someone, and I didn't have to go through 30 minutes of waiting on a touch screen menu or a touch tone menu to speak to someone. That meant a lot to me to be able to talk to someone working for the company, and the person I spoke with was very friendly, happy to do business. So as I said, I can't really talk to customer support, but my experience with the company just through the one person that I talked to was very positive, which leads me to believe that interacting with Advantage Arms would be a positive experience. Okay, so let's get into the pros and the cons. We'll start with the pros. The first thing that I have is the cost. Now, I said $250. That might sound like a lot, but believe me when I tell you, the amount that you'll save after a few range trips will pay for this kit many times over. In fact, I've already paid for this kit in what I would have spent if I had used 9mm or something else. So I think the cost is minimal for what you're getting. Now, if you're just considering it as a toy, the price might be a little steep, and we'll talk about that. But I think for $250 for the kit, $350 all in for a bunch of magazines, I do not think that that's a bad price to pay for something that's this nice. Now, training uses. You've seen in the videos, I'm able to practice drawing from the holster, reholstering, I can practice mag changes, and these magazines are similar enough to the real Glock magazines that they not only fit my holster, which we'll talk about in a minute, but they also, getting your purchase on these magazines, I think is very similar too. So here's my real Glock 19, well, the real magazine right here. And then here's an Advantage Arms. There's a definite weight difference, but they eject just fine. I haven't experienced any issues with the magazines ejecting strangely or not wanting to eject. So I'd say dimensionally they're very similar, and it's really one-to-one for me. So as a training tool, I think it's definitely a legitimate option for someone like myself to get a lot of time out on the range, get in the muscle memory, get down the weapons manipulation and handling skills at a fraction of the cost. Now, ease of use. This is very simple to use. It's very simple to break down, easy to reassemble, and it's also easy to clean, which is great. And if there's any confusion, the manual that does come with the kit explains everything that you could need to know. So I think this is about as easy as it gets to use, to be honest. Now, another thing that I'd like to talk about would be holster compatibility, and this is a big one for me because I do have a belt that I use with a holster, and I have magazines on there as well. So let me show that to you real quick. So this is my gun belt that you've seen in the videos. And this is a Safariland 6355 holster with the ALS retention system. So You will actually not be able to hear that engage with this setup. It will not, the ALS locking system will not work with the Advantage arm slide, but the dimensions are close enough to a real Glock 19 slide that this will fit very snugly in there. It's not a forced fit. I don't have to force it or anything like that. I'm not worried about damaging sights or anything like that either, or hurting the holster. It just does not quite lock in place because the injection port cutout is just slightly different on this compared to a real Glock 19. But it fits very well, and that for me is important because I can use the same gear. And as I said before, the magazines are very similar to real Glock 19 magazines. So here I'm able to fit those in my pistol mag pouches just fine. Don't have to adjust them or anything. And the only real difference is weight, and also obviously some changes up top here. It's a very compatible product, and I think that's great to be able to use it for training. The last thing on the pros list is the fact that this is not an FFL item. So this is not a regulated item. This is not a firearm. It is just a piece of metal, the way the law stands. And so what that allows anyone to do is go on, find a kit, and have it shipped directly to your door, because it's not anything that you need to do a background check for. If you were getting a whole pistol, that would be different. And I really do see that as a large pro for the conversion kit, because if you were to try to get a whole pistol like a Glock 44, the new 22 long rifle Glock, that you do have to do a background check for. That is the last thing on my list of pros. Now, if we want to jump right into the cons, we'll start off with actually the same thing. This is not a whole pistol. So for what you're paying, for that price, you can purchase another inexpensive 22 long rifle pistol, and you can have a complete pistol. With this, you're always going to have an extra slide floating around, whether it's the conversion kit and you have the real slide on here, or if you have this setup and you have the conversion kit, and then you've got another slide lying around. The other thing that we talked about earlier was the finickiness. So lots of people have had issues with this kit in particular, the Advantage Arms conversion kit, because they have not used, or probably have not used, the correct ammunition. That is to say, you cannot just get any 22 bulk ammo and throw that in this conversion kit and expect it to work just fine. Advantage Arms is very transparent about the fact that you're going to have issues if you do not use recommended ammo, but thankfully the recommended ammo includes a couple of different manufacturers. This isn't exactly a princess when it comes to ammunition, but it does take a little more consideration, and so I do think that is also kind of a drawback at the same time. Another thing would be the holster fit. I said earlier that this fits my holster, and it does, but it doesn't actually engage the ALS locking system, and there's a lever here that locks onto the ejection port. Because this is not dimensionally the exact same as a real Glock 19, it's similar, this is my real Glock 19 slide, it's similar but not the same, the ALS system will not properly lock on to this, which is kind of annoying. I think it could be an issue potentially if you're moving around, running around, jumping around. I'm not sure if it's possible that this would bounce out of the holster, and some holsters have no active retention, they only use passive retention, so that may not even be an issue for you, but it is something to be aware of, and that is one reason that I would include it on my list of cons. And the last reason that I have a con for this is for training. So it's a very useful training aid, but it doesn't give you full recoil. It's not exactly the same, and 22 is so easy to shoot. You do need to get some real reps in with full power ammunition, and so that is where this lacks a little bit. And as long as you understand that, you're going to be okay, but maybe for some people that's just not how they're approaching this, and in that case that would be kind of a drawback to using this conversion kit. So that really wraps up everything that I have to say about this. This conversion kit functions very well. It's a lot of fun to use. It's held up well. I've used it in lots of conditions that I don't even have footage for. I have used it in the snow. I've used it when it's very cold outside. And really the only time this has started to gunk up on me is after several hundred rounds without cleaning. Then it gets a little gunky in there. Again, very reliable kit. Pretty inexpensive to get the whole thing, so I highly recommend you check this out if you're thinking about getting a conversion kit for your Glock pistol. So thanks for checking this out. If you like the content, please like and subscribe, and that wraps it up, and I'll see you guys in the next video.